Ladies and gentlemen, and this is How and Why Did Switzerland Become Neutral? This is by the channel History Matters, one of the recent video, I guess, just from last month. But yeah, this is a really interesting one. Switzerland. Yeah, Switzerland was neutral in World War I, World War II. I didn't know that before I started to do World War history videos, right? Then suddenly after a few videos, I kind of noticed that, but didn't really process it. Then after some video, like, what the fuck? In World War I, World War II, why is this one patch always empty? Then I saw like, what country is this? Oh, wait a minute, Switzerland. And then I saw the real life lore video. I think it was a real life lore video, which showed like how there are bunkers in Switzerland, right? And basically there are safety measures that if there is some invasion, everybody just runs to the bunker or something. The bridges are kind of have this kind of a weird mines and shit like that. Bridges can be blown up or something. So basically, if people know the geography of it, it's really understandable. Germany is there, France is there, and throughout the history, they're like, you know what? No, fuck this. We are surrounded by this kind of a strong temper people. Yeah, we're just gonna jury rig things, everything, right? We're gonna rig everything. We're gonna put bombs there. We're gonna put bunkers there because that's the only chance we have. So yeah, let's watch it. History Matters is a great channel. They explain things in a very, very short video. This is 4 minutes. So it's kind of a longer video than the usual. But yeah, let's watch it.
Switzerland, famous for this mountain, clocks, its interesting banking arrangements, and of course, its neutrality. Whereas in the past, it was primarily known for its mercenary companies and their ability to wage war. So what exactly changed? Why did Switzerland go from a land of soldiers for hire to one of non-involvement? And why did the countries around it, which, to understate things, really like to fight their neighbours, allow this to happen? So exactly when Switzerland became neutral is debated. In the 16th century, it wasn't a formal nation but a loose confederation of smaller states which were part of the Holy Roman Empire. There was a scuffle in Italy over whether or not Francis I of France was in fact the ruler of Milan.
Hold up there. So it was part of Holy Roman Empire. Knowing that it's in the Alps, right, Switzerland, and you have to go through mountains just to reach it in either direction. Even if you try to go from Germany, there are mountains there, right? That's the whole point. That's the whole thing of Germany. It's in the mountainous area, right? So I know Holy Roman Empire, there was a real issue, like emperor cannot, manage their own state. And I'm guessing the Switzerland was one of the least one at that. Because how are you going to manage a country, a state or whatever that is in the Alps basically, right? Where you're living here in somewhere like Prussia or something, right? Austria or whatever.
And since the Swiss had a claim to it themselves, it was time to fight. The Swiss lost, and as a result they pledged themselves to a perpetual peace with respect to France. But you know who isn't France? Savoy, and when France marched into northern Italy 20 years later, the Swiss helped themselves to this land. After this, Switzerland largely stayed out of wars, barring the supply of mercenaries during the 30 Years' War. Keeping this peace wasn't out of any desire to maintain their neutrality, but for 2 reasons. The first was that the states around them were much larger and getting invaded by them sucked. The second was the Protestant Reformation, which meant instead of worrying about events in Italy, France or the Holy Roman Empire, they now had to worry about their neighbours who suddenly believed different things. This internal conflict managed to keep the Swiss occupied until 1798, when its neighbours, with shiny new political ideas...
Imagine that, right? I mean, you've been part of a thing that is led by Pope, religious way, right? And then suddenly religion changes. Like, wait a minute, there's a different Christianity now. Oh yeah, it's a new version 2 or something, right? So now they have to worry about that shit. Like, okay, people are just gonna, storm all over me just because of that reason. Switzerland used to be known for their mercenaries. What are the war gold? Had some diamonds in them and called Rolex or something. Rolex mercenaries.
Invaded. The Swiss Confederacy fell apart quickly and it was replaced with the brand new Helvetic Republic, which was stripped of this territory. Napoleon soon changed his mind and reformed the Confederacy, well, most of it as a French puppet state. But after he was ousted, the victors all had different plans for Switzerland. The French plan for Switzerland wasn't heard since they had just lost the war, and so be quiet. The Prussians wanted Switzerland to be forced into joining the German Confederation, and the Austrians wanted it to become an Austrian puppet state and buffer against the French. In order to avoid any conflict, the Russians mediated, and everyone agreed that the Swiss Confederation would be forever neutral and wouldn't send troops abroad. Except for the Pope, that is, he could have some. Everyone accepted this until the late 19th century, when it became a haven for socialist, Bonapartist, nationalist and liberal dissidents from the Great Powers. As such, the surrounding Great Powers all demanded that the Swiss keep tabs on these people, which they begrudgingly agreed to and now could act—
No way, so let me get this straight. At the core of it, it's basically German empires wanted it as their puppet state or part of German Empire. Austrian wanted it for the their buffer state for France, but Russian just got in the middle of it, and we just decided, let's keep it neutral. Since everybody wants it, yeah, then it has to be neutral or something, right? So there's no conflict. And since that has carried over, then they were housing key people from all over the Europe. So now, like, okay, you watch over them. Like they become in its own thing now. That okay, we are neutral. We'll watch over things.
Actually do, since the recent civil war there had made it into a much more centralised federal state. So given that the European powers felt free to threaten Switzerland whenever it suited them, how did it stay neutral and not get itself Belgiumed? Well, the first real threat to Swiss neutrality was the First World War. The danger didn't come from Germany, they had other neutral nations to cross, but from France. As the war raged on, the French wanted to flank the German army in the south and so came up with the brilliant idea of going through Switzerland. Hearing of this, the Swiss mobilised more of their army and placed it on the French border, and this greater resistance combined with the likely backlash from Britain meant that Switzerland was spared. And after the war, its long-standing neutrality was also part of the reason why it was chosen to be the headquarters of the League of Nations. And World War II was the last time that Switzerland's neutrality was threatened. German leadership had wanted to expand under the pretext of German unity, but they never invaded the country for several reasons. First of all, a neutral Switzerland made for a useful diplomatic trade hub, since German and Allied diplomats could unofficially make contact. Germany could also sell gold that it had...
Let me get this straight.
Several reasons. First of all, a neutral...
So, the Reich basically envisioned this place as their own. And then there are other places too. They just thought that this is going to be buffered, like, in how there's a bar in John Wick. Where they go, oh, it's neutral, all guns aside, so everybody can just meet up there. Is that it? I'm pretty sure it probably had more than that, right? I'm pretty sure there was more difficulty to invade Switzerland by Hitler, and that's why he didn't do it, right? Because I highly doubt it just because they wanted a neutral state in the middle or something.
Switzerland made for a useful diplomatic trade hub, since German and Allied diplomats could unofficially make contact. Germany could also sell gold that it had acquired to Switzerland for Swiss francs, which it could use to purchase goods from third parties. The second reason, the most important one, was that the costs far outweighed the benefits. Switzerland was a mountainous land with little in the way of natural resources, populated by a fiercely independent people who were mostly armed to the teeth. And given that Germany had either bigger plans or much more pressing issues, the opportune moment to invade never presented itself. And after this, Switzerland was able to maintain its neutrality with no further threats of war, which is why Geneva was made...
Let's be honest, Germany had most of the France as well, right? If Germany would have taken over Britain somehow, and then went over, France and maybe take more places, if not, somehow try to take Italy down, right? Because they would have eventually, let's be honest, they're not going to stop anywhere. And then they would have like, okay, there's the Switzerland there, fuck it. If you want neutral state, we'll have it our own, and they would have just tried to take it over eventually. No way they would have just left it alone, yeah.
Made host to a major UN office in 1946, an organisation which the Swiss refused to join until 2002. I hope you enjoyed this episode and thank you for watching, with a special thanks to my patrons, James Bizanet, Kelly Moneymaker, Corsho Wolf, Jordan Longley, Adam Stalter, Corey Turner, Copper
That's it. So yeah, I like how Switzerland stands throughout the whole time. It's like, okay, that's it. We've been this and we are going to be this. We're going to be neutral. Screw you. Even in the Geneva, basically, they're like, until 2002, and no, we don't want to be part of that. This is all epic. Yeah, Alps is a really interesting mountainous area, right? I mean, it's from the France all the way to Italy, through this side to Germany. Basically, Switzerland's in the, basically on top of it, middle of it, whatever. But the Alps throughout the history, through the Roman Empire to all the way to God knows how many different emperors, different people try to cross it. And it's always a hard thing to do. Alps has always been hard. And Alps is such a wide spread, right, mountainous area. I'm surprised nobody has made some kind of an open world game from that. It would be so good, like everything on the Alps. Closest thing I can think of from that is Far Cry 4, which was in, Himalayas or something. Right, but somebody could make a great game by creating something in the Alps. You can have that top mountain there, have some civilization here and there, some societies, I guess different countries, if not countries, just simple towns on top down. Make use of vertical areas rather than not. But yeah. Alright, well, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. Check out the reaction. There's a link in the description. Check out the cards, check out the ink cards, and yeah, I'll see you next time.